Imagine a man so powerful, so visionary, that he wanted the entire world at his feet, not in the sense of conquest, but of pure beauty, a man who traveled, loved, suffered, and who decided to enclose every wonder he saw in a single immense marble dream, right here, in the Roman countryside. This is not a fantasy tale, but the true story of a Roman emperor, Hadrian, and his enduring masterpiece, Hadrian's Villa in Tivoli, a place where art, nature, and philosophy blend in an architecture that defies time and which still today whispers secrets of a distant life. Prepare yourself for an unforgettable journey through the corridors and gardens of an ideal city born from the mind of a single man. Hadrian, the philosopher emperor, ascended the throne of Rome in 117 AD and immediately distinguished himself from his predecessors. He was not a conqueror eager for new lands, but a builder, an artist, a poet, and a tireless traveler. It was precisely this thirst for knowledge, this infinite curiosity for the cultures and beauties of the then known world, that forged his grandest vision. Hadrian did not simply want an imperial residence, he desired a world in miniature, a perfect synthesis of the wonders he had been fortunate enough to contemplate with his own eyes. And so, a few kilometers from Rome, in the peaceful countryside of Tivoli, his architectural utopia took shape. Hadrian's Villa. It was not a villa in the traditional sense, but a veritable city stretching over 120 hectares, an enormous blank canvas on which Hadrian painted his memories and aspirations. Every corner, every building, every statue was a tribute, an echo of a place visited, of an emotion felt. From the majestic temples of Greece to the enigmatic structures of Egypt, from the elegant porticos to the luxurious baths, Hadrian intended Hadrian's Villa to be a compendium of the eclecticism and profound culture that inspired him. He wanted to capture the beauty of the world, not with the might of legions, but with the harmony of forms and the perfection of materials. It was a tribute to his thirst for knowledge, his love of art, and his constant search for harmony. Every brick, every piece of marble, every plant planted in those gardens reflected a piece of his heart and his wandering soul. Entering Hadrian's Villa, you're immediately enveloped in a magical, almost unreal atmosphere. But among all the wonders, two places stand out for their beauty and profound significance: the Canopus and the Maritime Theatre. Imagine walking under a warm sun and then suddenly you find yourself in front of a body of water. This is the Canopus, a place that is not just an ornamental pool, but the beating heart and Egyptian soul of the villa. It is a faithful reproduction of the famous sanctuary of Serapis in Alexandria, Egypt, a place Hadrian had visited and which had deeply impressed him. Here, the long water basin, surrounded by colonnaded porticos reflected in the calm surface, immediately evokes the slow and mysterious navigation of the Nile. Along the banks, between the slender shafts of columns that seem to hold up the sky, stand statues that dance between myth and reality, replicas of classical masterpieces, divine figures, caryatids, and even mythological creatures, such as the crocodile that once graced its waters. Hadrian intended to represent the cultural syncretism that permeated his empire, the fusion of Greek rationality, Roman power, and Eastern mysticism. Sitting here, listening to the gentle rustle of the wind, is like being transported back in time, to an aquatic dream where beauty is palpable, a complete sensory experience which at the time must have left visitors breathless. But Hadrian, while loving company and grandeur, was also a man who sought solitude, peace, a place where he could retreat from the complex intrigues of court and the heavy responsibility of empire. And for this reason he created the Maritime Theatre. It was not a theatre in the traditional sense, but a private island, a secret refuge surrounded by a circular moat filled with water. Access was via a wooden drawbridge that the emperor could retract, isolating himself completely from the rest of the world. Inside, a circular portico with Ionic columns enclosed a small island with a tiny villa, complete with baths, libraries, and a nymphaeum. It was his sanctum sanctorum, his personal study, a place where he could read, meditate, compose poetry, or simply enjoy the quiet. Here, far from prying eyes and the formalities of court, Hadrian could simply be himself, the man, the philosopher, the artist. It was his personal escape, a haven of peace built for the soul of a tormented but extraordinarily brilliant emperor. His ingenious conception shows not only his architectural sophistication, but also a deep awareness of his own need for interior space and spiritual recharging, a luxury that few rulers could afford, but which Hadrian, with his vision, had tailor made for himself. Hadrian's villa was not only an architectural masterpiece and a spiritual refuge, it was a hub of power, culture, and inevitably intrigue in the Roman Empire. Court life here was a vibrant and complex fresco, a microcosm of Roman society as a whole. Sumptuous banquets followed one after another, with exotic flavors and spectacular entertainment, the echoes of which were lost among the columns of the peristyles and the lavish mosaics. The vast kitchens and service areas, often invisible to today's visitors, were in reality a hive of activity, ensuring that every need of the emperor and his guests was met with the utmost efficiency and magnificence. But behind the facade of luxury and beauty, court life was rife with tension and power struggles. Advisors, senators, foreign dignitaries, and ambitious courtiers moved between the gardens and halls, each with their own agendas, gossip, and aspirations. Political plots were the order of the day, whispered in secluded corners or disguised as harmless conversations. Hadrian himself, a brilliant man but often prone to melancholy and sensitivity, was constantly at the center of this vortex. His decisions could elevate or destroy careers, his benevolence was a coveted reward, his disapproval a curse. It is said that it was at Hadrian's villa that Hadrian received news of the death of his beloved Antinous, an event that plunged him into deep despair and drove him to deify the young man, leaving an indelible mark on the villa with statues and temples dedicated to him. This episode reminds us that, despite its grandeur and magnificence, Hadrian's villa was also a place of grief, loss, and deep human emotion. Yet, despite internal struggles and personal shadows, the villa retained its dreamlike aura, a place where beauty was not merely an ornament, but a vehicle for philosophy. Hadrian was deeply influenced by Greek philosophy, particularly Stoicism and Epicureanism. For him, art and architecture were not ends in themselves, but tools for understanding the world and human existence. The villa was a laboratory of ideas, a place where scholars, artists, and philosophers were invited to debate, create, and reflect. Here, the pursuit of knowledge, the contemplation of beauty, and the understanding of human nature were celebrated. Today, as we walk among the silent ruins of Hadrian's villa, we can still hear the echoes of that vibrant life, those intellectual conversations, and that joyful laughter. The ancient stones, eroded by time and the elements, speak to us of a glorious past and the tenacity of a dream. We see the broken arches, the faded mosaics, the headless statues, and the collapsed colonnades, and yet the magic persists. The ruins in their melancholy are not just rubble, but eloquent testimonies to a grandiose vision. Hadrian's Villa is not just an archaeological site, it is the tangible legacy of an emperor, philosopher, and traveler, a man who sought to understand and enclose the infinite in the finiteness of marble and form. It is a monument to the human aspiration to create, explore, and transcend our own limits. It reminds us that even in the face of the transience of time, beauty, culture, and the desire for knowledge can leave an indelible mark. Every brick, every fragment of column tells the story of Hadrian, a man who tried to capture the beauty of the world in a single glorious place. His villa remains an eternal testament to the greatness of the Roman Empire and the uniqueness of an emperor whose spirit continues to roam among these ancient stones. If you're curious to discover other places where history and beauty meet, don't forget to click on the next video.